girl?
Yeah.
Oh,
The girl,
sorry,
yes,
the
the
girl. When we first meet her,
Yeah.
or a nasty episode when she first gets on aboard a ship.
Nasty.
Oh,
Nasty.
So nice. Right. A while later, Cattleya slogged down to the northernmost dock. Moored to the very end, a lean, fast-looking ship rocked on the swell. A tall crewman stood on the gangplank, overseeing a team of lumpers, staggering under the weight of oak barrels. A curved sword was strapped across his back, and a long knife hung at each hip. "Oi there, mister! I heard you're setting sail for Dalabar this morning, and are short of, crew," Cattleya called out. He turned. Cattleya was surprised. Saw he turned out to be a she, a warrior woman, from the deserts far to the southwest, with a skin the colour of peat soil. A flat turban, worn low over her forehead and over her ears, hid her hair, and a sort of short, stiff veil attached to the turban masked her eyes, but left most of her nose and mouth uncovered. Though she'd seen a few desert warriors before, none had worn a veil like that. Nostrils flaring like a dog catching a scent, the woman closed on her. She raked Cattleya up and down with her hidden eyes, nodded, then motioned her for her to follow, and strode up the gangplank. On the main deck, she stopped to speak to a hook-nosed man, then strode back towards the gangplank, with a half glance at Cattleya as she passed. "I'm the captain of the Asakar. Pike's the name, but the crew call me Captain Pike, or Captain. Got it?" The stringy hook-nosed man drilled Cattleya with hard grey eyes till she nodded. "What can you do?" "Whatever needs doing." Cattleya had watched and learned on past visits to the docks. She knew what skills would interest the captain. "I'm nothing if not adaptable, and I've a good head for heights. I heard you needed a rigging monkey." "Aye, that's true. But a simple merchant man like this needs versatile sailors. I'm in need of someone who can tally and write too," Captain Pike stated, his gaze unwavering. "I can write a number well enough," Cattleya shrugged, trying for a nonchalance, not sure if she succeeded. "Can you hold your temper, even when provoked?" Captain Pike narrowed his eyes. "There's no fighting aboard this ship. I come down brutal on any brawls, you understand?" "Yes, Captain," Cattleya agreed. "As long as everyone left her alone, that would work just fine." "You needn't take such care to hide the fact you're a lass either. Take your hat off. Let me get a proper look at your face," he ordered. Cattleya slid the hat off, and he raised her body with his eyes, till even with her uncle's bulky coat on, she felt naked. "I take females on as crew if they can do the job as well as man or boy. You've met Lavine, one of the finest helmsmen I've ever had, and damn good in a fight too. What's your age and name, lass?" "Cattleya Aflaif. I've just passed my 17th name day." Cattleya met him stare for stare. She itched to be off the ship. She had no choice but to stay put, though. It was the only ship left in need of crew. "Good. I can see you've potential, so I'll take you on, lass. The last rigging monkey we had fell aboard. Sharks ate him. It happens to those taking less care than they should." Captain Pike leaned closer and breathed fish aromas into Cattleya's face. She held her breath and didn't move. With a curt nod, he turned and sauntered off, directing his next words over his shoulder. "Obey orders, learn fast, do the jobs you're given well, and you'll fit in. Stay out of the way of the crew while we put out to sea. We'll sort the rest out when we've set sail." Cattleya nodded. After the refusals from the other ships, she thought it would be harder to get on board, yet here she stood. Her mood ought to have lifted, but she had a strange feeling she had made a blasted awful choice. She chewed at her lip as she thought on the reasons why that might be. She didn't trust Captain Pike, no more than she'd trust a spark in shavings. Something about him unsettled her, but as she couldn't think of any obvious reason why, she shrugged it off. The crew scurried around preparing the ship, and Cattleya moved to the railings to get out of the way. She stared up at the city and along the wharves. Blast! Sudden shock had her ducking below the railings, quick as thought. while her heart tried to hammer its way out of her rib cage. A thief-taker strode towards the Assacard. A dockside lumper hurried next to him, gesticulating towards the ship. Cattleya kept the whoremonger in sight and hoped he hadn't seen her. They stopped to speak to someone on the gangplank. Cattleya couldn't hear what they said, but the whoremonger soon stomped off back up the dock. Relieved, she slumped against the rails and waited for her heart to slow. The lumpers pushed the ship away from the docks with their long, heavy poles, while the rowers, tend to a launch, heaved on the oars to pull the ship out of port. When they passed the harbour walls, the sails billowed and the ship leaned, cutting through the waves and away from Roffet. Cattleya, standing at the rail again, swallowed as tears rolled down her cheeks. She had lost a lot in too short a time. Her home, her uncle, her friends, nearly her life. Too damn much. Sighing, she turned from the rail. "What are you snivelling about, lass?" Captain Pike loomed into Cattleya's view. His blow staggered her. "I don't allow such weakness aboard this ship. You want to take a man's job, you'll have to act like a man. Stop that piss-poor bawling." "Yes, Captain." Cattleya felt her cheek burn with his handprint, but she managed to hold on to the surge of anger. The spirits only knew how. "I thought you were made of better stuff," Captain Pike snarled. He glowered down at her, hands on his hips, feet wide in the typical seaman stance. "I'd rather have a wild mountain lioness aboard than some weepy-eyed kitten. But I'll cure you or introduce you to the sharks before long, lass. Now go below and stow your belongings. Tacker will show you where." As she turned away, Cattleya spotted a filthy rat. With reactions honed from keeping the huge city rats away from Uncle Yadok, her knife whipped through the air and thunked into the deck before she'd taken another breath. The spiky, black-furred rodent twitched once, impaled by 3 inches of quivering braid. "Doxy spawn, filthy slum rat brat! What do you mean by throwing knives about on this ship?" Pike strode forward, hand raised, ready for the strike. "Lower your hand or you'll skewer it on this knife, Captain Pike." Cattleya stood with her legs apart and tensed, but knees soft, a second dagger readied. The blood rushed through her veins, her eyes sharpened, sounds faded, and her mind raced. She could swim back to shore. They hadn't gone that far yet. But what then? The blasted thief-taker guild would still want her, and she'd have a price on her head that'd be hard for the desperate to ignore. "I've shown you just how good my eye is, that I'm no meat kitten, and that there's no way in all of Murak's stinking hells you'll be able to tame me."